Namaste, a very good morning to all. Let's try to understand Bhagavad Gita in a simplified way. We know that there is an epic which is known as Mahabharata. The people who lived in and around Asia were part of the great Mahabharata. Maha means great. Bharata comes from two words, Bha and Ratha. Bha means wisdom, Ratha means reside. So these words itself signifies that Mahabharata means the place where wisdom resides. We can also understand that during that period there were many contemplatives, yogis, sages, saints living in India. There was a culture which was to respect each other and live in brotherhood and harmony. So if we take this Mahabharata as an epic, there are 100,000 verses. In these 100,000 verses, we get a great detail about the characteristics of the whole humanity. Different kinds of people. Some people are very gentle, some are very harsh and hard, and some are very soft in nature, some are cunning, cruel. So there are many stories in this Mahabharata epic which designates different characters of people. So if we are taking the Bhishma Parva, a part of this Mahabharata, in that there are 700 verses which is given to the great Bhagavad Gita. So we all have a question in our mind. What is Bhagavad Gita? We can understand by these words, Bhagavad Gita, that it is a song of the divine. So there is a question which is coming. Why we have to understand about this song of the divine? Whenever it is a song from the divine, we all know that it is pure, it is sacred, and also it is a revelation. So we can say that whatever is coming from the universal source is song divine. We can also take Mahabharata as the epic, like a canvas. And in this canvas, we have the portrait, which is Bhagavad Gita. We can also make it much more easier for understanding. It is like a dialectics. It's like a talk between the grandfather and the grandson. Or it is like the talk between an elderly person, like an elderly brother and younger brother. Or it may be like we are talking to a wise man and listening to his words. So what is the importance of Bhagavad Gita? How many chapters are there in Bhagavad Gita? In Bhagavad Gita, there are 18 chapters. And the whole of Bhagavad Gita, when you take like the first chapter as a brick and the second chapter laying another brick over it like steps, it becomes a beautiful arch. If you consider the first chapter, it is on the earth. Like the first brick has to be on the earth. And then there is an arch which is formed, which is ascending up and going towards the ninth, and the 10th again descending down and going towards the 18th chapter. It is very interesting that the first chapter and the 18th chapter both are connected to the earth. So, what is the significance of this? This means the first chapter, which is very important to understand. Actually, if we are reading this great scripture, Bhagavad Gita, the whole of the Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita is written by the great saint Veda Vyasa. So if we are going through the first chapter and finally reaching to the 18th chapter, what we understand is that even in the first chapter, when Arjuna has so many doubts, Arjuna is well grounded. Yes. And finally, when we come to the last chapter, 18th chapter, which is Sannyasa Yoga, or the yoga of renunciation, still the yogi, after renunciation, is properly grounded on this earth. Now, the question is that why there is so much importance given to the first chapter. If we are reading the translation written by Sri Shankaracharya, we do not find that Sri Shankaracharya is giving much importance to the first chapter. He is considering the whole of Bhagavad Gita to start from the second chapter, Sankhya Yoga, and almost from the 8th to 10th verses of the second chapter, he is beginning the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. So we have two characters which are more important in this. Krishna we can take as the elderly brother. Arjuna can be the younger brother. Krishna, which also comes from the root kr, means ever attractive. Arjuna means ever wakeful. So from these words, we can understand that Arjuna is not a normal person. He is a warrior and a person who is ever wakeful. In the present world also, we are also going through a lot of issues. If you are a family person, there are many things which are connected with the family. There are obligations. There are things which can cause depression. There are things which make you feel worried. There are many issues which are actually making one unhappy. Even the society where we live, if we take the psychology of the society, sometimes we find that there is a lot of negativity. And most of us, where we are living in cities and going to work in an office, there is still what is known as ego issues, anger issues, and also sometimes depression. The first chapter is known as Arjuna Vishada Yoga. I always used to contemplate on the first chapter because if you are reading the first chapter, it begins as Arjuna Vishada Yoga, the yoga of despondency, yoga of sorrow. So how can we connect yoga with despondency or sorrow? This is a question which I had in my mind for a long time. But when I was going through the first chapter, I understood that there was a state in which Arjuna was confused for some time. We also have this kind of dilemma in our life because many of us are related to the family, many of us are related to the society, or many of us are related to the work which we do. And there can be a kind of a state where we feel unsecure. There is insecurity, and this insecurity can lead to many, many problems. In the beginning, we can see the great warrior Arjuna standing with his bow and arrow, and he is talking to Krishna as if he is just his friend. He is saying to Krishna, please take the chariot in between the two armies, because we have two parts of these armies. One is the Kaurava part, which is under the leadership of Duryodhana, and we have the Pandava part, where we have Yudhishthira and other great warriors. So, when Arjuna is speaking to Krishna, it is as if Arjuna is ordering Krishna to take the chariot in between the two armies. So, like a driver, Krishna is taking the chariot in between the two armies. And standing in between the two armies, Arjuna is looking at both the armies. And what he finds is that he is fighting with his masters like Kripacharya, Dronacharya, and his grandsire Bhishmacharya, and his other teachers and uncles and cousins. So he feels benumbed to see that he's going to fight with his own masters. And he's looking at his own army, where he's seeing his brothers, his friends, and also his sons and other warriors. So he's thinking that how can I fight with my own people and cause so much of bloodshed? So thinking about this, there is a kind of shivering which is happening, horripilation which is happening to Arjuna. And Arjuna says to Krishna, Krishna, I cannot fight. And he puts the Gandiva, the bow, down on the earth and just sits down. While we are going through this first chapter, we have many, many characters which are shown. And it is interesting that all these characters are related to us also in our life, because sometimes we meet persons who are very gentle and soft in their heart. Sometimes we meet people who are very rough and tough. Sometimes we meet people who are friendly. And we also meet some people who stab from the back. So similarly, while we are going through the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna Vishada Yoga, we find that there is a description about the both armies and also about these people who have come to fight the Mahabharata war. And we have Duryodhana, who is the leader in the opposite, who is considered to be like a person who cannot be defeated. And while we go through this Bhagavad Gita, we also understand that all the fight which is happening is happening because of this Duryodhana, because he is on the path of adharma, unrighteousness. Even his father, the king who is blind, he knows that the whole war is for righteousness, for dharma. So, and in the beginning itself, the blind king is saying, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamakav pandavaschaiva kim akurvata sanjaya. So Dhritarashtra is saying to Sanjaya, gathered on the holy land of Kurukshetra, eager to fight, what did my sons and the son of Pandu do? We can see that in the first verse itself, the king has this differentiation between his sons and the son of the opposite, the Pandu. All these things will help us to understand that in the society where we are living or in the family where we are living, there is always contradiction. And while there is so much of contradiction, we are losing a lot of energy thinking about these kind of things which are happening, and sometimes we are going into depression. We are worried about our own kith and kin. We are worried about our siblings. We are worried about our parents, and also because of that, we think that we are not able to live our life fully. Here, what we see is that Arjuna is also in a state of dilemma where he is thinking that how can he fight with his own people? How can he fight with his own teachers? And he doesn't want any kind of bloodshed. Even though he knows that his teachers and Bhishmacharya, the great grandsire, are on the path of unrighteousness, adharma, still what he feels is that he cannot kill them for his own happiness. And we have the great Krishna who is saying that you are not killing anybody and you cannot kill anybody. They are already killed by me. So in a deeper way, when we understand that as a human being, we all need to have values, and we have to keep these values, and these values will help us even when we are with our own family, even when we are in the society or we are working in an office. Still, as a human being, when we have ethics, when we have values, and these values will certainly make us feel that there is something unique about us and that we live for the higher value. So it is said that this Bhagavad Gita, when we read, is completely helping one to find one's own path, to find dharma in one's life, righteousness. It is said to be that the whole Vedas, when taken, it is the essence of the whole Vedas. Bhagavad Gita is considered to be that whatever we are now trying to understand is actually simplified part of the Vedas. So this knowledge which we receive even from the first chapter itself will help us to read the other chapters and make us understand that first thing what we have to do is not to get into a kind of attachment towards family, not to get too much attached to the society or to our job, but to live our life according to the dharma. And whoever lives his life unattached to many things will have more balanced life, because if we go deeper into Bhagavad Gita is said to be the science absolute, Brahma Vidya. It is to know about oneself. So where is this greed coming from? Where is this ego coming from? What are the hurdles which we are having in our life? What is that which helps us to purify oneself? Rather than pointing a finger towards others, we understand that let's point the fingers towards myself and see what are the hurdles I have to pass through. What is the ego which is there within me? Why am I getting angry towards many things? Why there is depression in my life? So while we go through these things, we understand that yes, many times we are not able to understand things, but in our unconscious mind, there is an attachment towards people, there is an attachment towards spouse, there is an attachment towards the office where we are working, there is an attachment towards our own house and car, and all these things are bringing a lot of pain. So if we are working on the path of dharma, what is that which helps us? We know that whatever is good for ourselves and for the others, we try our best. And every day we say that, let my life become much more happier and let me lead a life of balance by being on the path of dharma. This is very important for us, even in this modern life. We need to understand that there will be ups and downs, there will be a sickness coming in our life. But when we trust that there is something higher, the source to which I can trust completely, and when I have all kinds of issues in my life, I bow down to that greater source and say that let all my joy, my sufferings, I surrender to that highest source so that I can lead my life on this earth happily and in balance. So I try to make it in a very simple way. Hope that you can enjoy this Srimad Bhagavad Gita talk. Thank you so much for listening to it. Love and devotion. Namaste.